Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. We are the longest-running community spotlight show, Spotlight on the Community, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, and my business partner and the founder and CEO of Cloudcast Media, Charles Parisi, and I are just going to do a little bit of a mid-year update. What do you think about that, Charles?
I think it's great. It is July 3rd. I guess you couldn't get any guests, so you got me.
And that's a good enough guest over there. But what I always like to do, and we learned this in the journalism business, okay? If you're covering an ongoing story, you always had in the article itself where it originated from. So if you're covering a fire, you're covering something like that, you always talk. So do the same thing here. Give a little bit of a nickel tour on Cloudcast Media.
Well, sure, I'd be happy to do that. Well, as you know, we started Cloudcast back in the summer of 2019, launched with your shows, the flagship Spotlight on the Community, now running, as you mentioned at the beginning, longest-running community podcast in the country in its 20th season, and I know we'll be celebrating later this year. So back in 2019, we started with this crazy idea, given the challenges that print, TV, and radio were dealing with as local media platforms. We said, hey, maybe, just maybe, podcasting can become the fourth horse in the local media race. So we set out on that vision, as you well know, and here we are 7 years later, and I think we've got a long way to go, but that ethos we set to become the national leader in local podcasting, I believe we've hit that, Drew, because I don't know of any podcasting company that's doing local podcasting with the vertical and horizontal reach that we're doing. And I'm happy to update you a little bit, not you know, but update the listeners about, hey, kind of where we're going horizontally and vertically. But I think we've hit that ethos. We are the national leader in local podcasting.
Well, yeah, we're real proud of that. I know you did a ton of research for our audience that's heard Charles on the Spotlight Show and other shows. The laundry list of Cloudcast Media shows. Charles has been an entrepreneur since age 25, and he's worked in these different areas, and some alike, some disparate, and all that business. And when Charles, jumps in on something, he goes knee deep and does the research on it. And you always said, "There's something here. We just need to unlock what that is," and it was. And I think the premise of it all, Charles, and just for our listeners know this, we got to know each other because Charles was a guest on our show with his wonderful daughter, Ava, when they were doing Songs for Shelter. They were doing a concert to raise money for homeless teens.
Yeah, that's right.
That almost seems like a lifetime ago, does it not?
11 years ago. That was 2015 was the first concert for Songs for Shelter to help Father Joe's Villages, specifically the Toussaint Academy, which was for homeless and runaway teens. Then we came on again in the second year of the concert, and then after that she was off to college, and so yeah, it was around 2018 when I decided, Drew, that I wanted to run a company again, and I had not done that in a number of years since I sold another company, and kind of did my research, and I really thought that obviously podcasting was on the ascent. Obviously the curve has steepened a little bit. I wasn't sure it was going to go straight up, from Baja to Maine as a slope, but it's taken on like a rocket ship. Sadly, the trend line for other forms of local media have gone from, Washington to Florida.
Right, exactly.
So the lines have crossed. Sponsors and advertisers. This is going to be a record-setting year for the industry in total for podcasting. More revenue going behind podcasting than ever before from the corporate marketplace, which works well for us, as you know, because, hey, we're sitting here in a studio built by Mission Fed so we can tell these community stories. Mission Fed was really one of the early adopters and innovators in embracing how you can use a podcast, particularly your longest-running community podcast, as a platform to connect, collaborate, communicate, and do all the things that champions like Mission Fed care deeply about.
Well, and it's something that's near and dear to both of our hearts, and that's storytelling. In a world where there's maybe 2 or 3, seconds of sound bites, we need to tell stories, and we get a chance to do that on these shows.
Yeah, no, absolutely, no question. I tell you, and as you know, boy, it's been a good 2026 for Cloudcast, where we are running hard, and I'd be happy to run through a few highlights for the year if you want me to.
I do, and I think, as you mentioned, we formed this in the summer of 2019 with the intent of we're going to replicate this in other parts of the country. There is certainly opportunities for a spotlight show in Atlanta or a spotlight show in Boston. There's definitely a place for a CEO show, women CEOs. They're in every single major metro. To some extent, even the superintendent shows. There's superintendents in different markets.
Yeah, there's no question about it.
Yeah.
And, you're right. The spotlight on the community does need to exist in every single market that Cloudcast opens up. And we're Atlanta, Philadelphia, and New York right now. Having said that, Drew, it's also the single hardest show to replicate in each market for a variety of reasons. One, not every city has Drew Schlosberg. That's number one. 2, it's 250 shows a year.
Right.
And 3, you've got to identify a fantastic corporate sponsor like a Mission Fed.
Right.
But ultimately, every major market where Cloudcast plants that flag, Spotlight in the Community will exist, along with some of our other what we call franchise shows, Live Local, Give Local, as well as CEO. So we're going to be putting up the franchise shows in each city, but then we build around the DNA and the ethos and the business climate, for each city. A good example would be San Diego is rich and deep in life sciences. So San Diego is the show that's going to embrace that whole community. We're getting ready to announce pretty soon here who's going to be the lead host and co-host of that show. It's a biggie. So that's going to be coming up. I'm not going to do it on the air because we may have a big splash out of this
Nice.
one. So we've got San Diego, but then in Atlanta, sometimes they refer to themselves as Silicon Valley South. So we have a show going up there called Silicon Valley South. We were lucky enough to get the name and the domain and all those good things. Philadelphia is a good example. Philadelphians know this well. There's a saying in Philly, it's wit or wit out, and it's spelled W-I-T, wit or wit out, which technically means it's the proper way to order a cheesesteak, but we're using it metaphorically to embrace the Philadelphia culture. And by the way, it refers to onions. You want wit or wit out onions on your cheesesteak.
Yeah. I'm the without guy.
Yeah, there you go. You got to say wit out though.
Wit out. Yeah, W-I-T out. Right. Exactly.
So we actually have that name as well, and that's the name of a show being built,
That's great.
out of Philly. So we're trying to reflect,
Right.
the local market. New York, we're finally moving forward with New York, my hometown. I was always a little scared. I didn't want to fail in my hometown. We have Shelf Wealth is going up, which is about books and the real wealth of human creativity and the ability to read and write, and Shelf Wealth. We also have a show specific for the financial community called the OCIO show, which stands for Outsourced Chief Investment Officer, which is a big thing on Wall Street. And so we're going to do a show specifically on that niche within the world of Wall Street called the OCIO show. So we've got a lot going on.
Well, and listen, we're chatting with my colleague, Charles Parisi. He's the founder and CEO of Cloudcast Media. I'm Drew Schlosberg. Of the Spotlight on the Community Show, we are the nation's longest-running community podcast. We're brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, 60-plus years of doing great things, in the community. And I think what's been so important, I think it's worth reminding people. We say this incessantly when people always ask us the 1960s question of how many listeners do you have? And I'll let you give our listeners the absolute answer that we tell everybody when it comes to sponsors.
Well, there's a couple of I'm going to address it in two ways. One, the power of an audience of one can be life-changing. So one of the most important things that we try to focus on in Cloudcast is really to deliver really good shows and really good content. If it reaches the ears or the eyes of one person, it changes their life, it was worth every minute in the studio. Having said that, of course, we want to touch more than one. Reach one and teach one is nice, but reaching more folks and giving them positive experience and feeling good about their community is important. But we do it organically. We don't spend any money on listener acquisition like a lot of companies do, and it's easily done. It's as a natural, organic growth, and your show is actually having a record year in terms of listenership.
Very proud of that.
It's pretty cool to see it come together. With obviously, as you know, between the newsletter, YouTube, all the different components that are being built to drive the engagement, it's all working, and that's what it's all about. But it's very organic, and that let's do great shows. That's the number one priority. Let's deliver what the community wants to hear. And by the way, that's one of the new things for this year, Drew, as you know, is now that we're operating in more cities, and I got a really excitement announcement as well, is that we're unifying around a common theme, which is listen where you live. In a crazy, crazy short attention span economy, called humans, with lots of things they can watch, listen to, touch, see, we're trying to tell every person, every citizen, and every community, carve out a little bit of time every day to listen where you live. Give a little bit of back to your community, and stay tuned to what's happening in your community.
Well, and we know that's been a premise of some print groups at Union Tribune where I was, is that you folks want to know what's happening in their backyard. They do. And it's just a different mechanism when you get a chance to talk about it. There's something about the storytelling, as you're very laser beamed on, listening it through the ears, very different than reading it through the eyes in this aspect of it. Just the human nature of this. And I think we're very mindful of the sponsors. The sponsors certainly get an opportunity to meet some of that in our show, Spotlight Show. This is the leadership of the community. But when you look at all the other ones, the CEO shows, and then the Biocom show that's coming down, the Gap Minders that you've been doing, Impacto. A lot of success on that. Talk about it.
Yeah, it really is. I'll tell you, I'm really excited about this year has also brought the launch of our first Spanish language show, Impacto, hosted by the amazingly talented Elsa Morales Roth.
She's the best.
Who, when she's not excelling as a phenomenal conversationalist on Impacto, she is the CEO, executive director of the Emilio Henares Foundation, which is an organization that everyone in San Diego needs to lean in and support, because it's a really special, organization. I think it's enfhope.org.
It is.
So check it out. She hosts Impacto. Connected to that is we're now officially moving forward with the Cali Baja Business Show to celebrate the uniqueness of this binational mega metropolis called San Diego and Baja. So Cali Baja Business Show, which is going to be about, doing business, just business, not fighting over the things that a lot of people want to fight over. In fact, Drew, the tagline for the show is, money knows no borders.
Yeah, true.
So it's going to be about how do we do business together? How do we build prosperity together? How do we enjoy each other and everything that both sides of this, quote, border have to offer? So Cali Baja's moving forward. San Diego. We also have another military show coming out specifically for student veterans and student enlisted, called Rally Point Actual, which is hosted by Nick Rennell and his colleague Tommy Hendler. So Cloudcast is proud to supporting another military show to go to our growing portfolio of military connected shows. As you know, Drew, you and I helped launch Your Next Mission, which is now over 29,000 subscribers.
That's right.
2.5 million views, doing wonderful things, hosted by Jack Tilley and created by and developed with Ted Hacker. So we're continuing to grow. But I got a couple of other exciting things too.
Let's hear them. Or is it a spoiler alert and we can't talk about it?
No. We can spoil it. So, well, Drew, again, you know all of this, but for the world that's listening, national leader, local podcasting, listen where you live. So one of the things we've done is we now have a podcast, not 20, not 40, but now 60 U.S. cities. So, and next week is another 20. So we're putting out now a story every week called the Cloudcast 180. So Cloudcast 180, San Diego, Albuquerque, Anaheim, D.C., Miami. We're now in 60 U.S. cities. The Cloudcast flag is officially planted, letting the world know we're on our way. And then some of those major markets, I'm not saying we're going to have Cloudcast, Spotlight in the community in all 100.
Right.
But those top 20 markets, they will have Spotlight.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of going there. So over 60 cities now. The other cool development, and you know this, is we've got a phenomenal program here in San Diego that was started by Blair Sadler, one of the iconic legends of San Diego for everything he contributed, both San Diego and the world. And he started a program called Access Youth Academy to bring squash to kids that don't typically have access to the most upper crust of upper crust sports. And beautiful program in Southeast San Diego. Gorgeous building with exquisite squash courts. So, knock on wood, Access Youth Academy and Cloudcast Media have collaborated on a show called Road to LA Squash Podcast. Squash is now an Olympic sport in 2028. And Access Youth Academy and Cloudcast Media have the official green light thumb endorsement of the World Squash Federation, which is essentially the FIFA of squash.
That's great.
Headquartered in Paris. And U.S. Squash Association, which is headquartered in Philly. And so we're moving forward on the production of an incredible show. It'll probably come out of Cloudcast Los Angeles because the squash in the Olympics takes place at Universal Studios.
Really?
Yeah, that's where the squash court is being built, right there at Universal Studios. So it's pretty cool. So I'll tell you, we've got some really, we're really proud of the year we're having.
Right, and one of the things we always have encouraged people to do this, certainly since Cloudcast Media was formed in the summer of 2019, is if you have an idea, if you think there's something that's going to resonate with you and your constituents, doesn't make a difference, give us a call. We do these things that Charles likes to call Dare to Dream. Thinking about it, but one thing I want you really to hit hard, if you don't mind, because you had this on your mind since we formed the Cloudcast Media team. Talk about the student engagement.
Yeah, it's a hallmark of everything we're doing, at Cloudcast. In some sense, students were the catalysts for me even thinking about podcasting as a business opportunity, because a charter high school that I was involved as one of the founding board members, which was focused and thematically, educationally, culturally on entrepreneurship, the School for Entrepreneurship and Technology. One of the first things that we did there was we put in a student podcast, run by students, for students, conversations with leaders all over the city. You were, obviously, Drew, you were involved in helping launch that show. You were a guest on the show. I think you might have been episode 1, were you not?
Peter Sibley and I.
Yeah,
We're very proud of that, too.
I think you were the very first guest for the
Right.
two students.
Right, very
and you know how good they were. I said, make a mental note that let's make sure when we get Cloudcast going, we embrace students in a variety of ways. And we've done that now in a very, very cool way. Virtually every show that we work on at Cloudcast, we have students involved as associate producers, or we have students actually hosting shows through our Schoolcast program. And so we really embrace, and want to power up that young voice, because the future, and again, now we can get on our soapbox here, Drew, but and I know that there is no real, functioning democracy without journalism and media, and certainly local media. The First Amendment's a wonderful thing, but you have to power up people's ability to communicate,
Right.
Explore, discuss. So our embrace of students is very much connected to this thing called media literacy. We want to power up young voices and allow them to research, tell stories, learn how to have a conversation. This thing that really humans, if I'm not mistaken, I think we're kind of the only species on the planet that sits down and does podcasts. I haven't noticed any other species podcasting, but this is what humans do.
Yeah.
And let's power that up in this world of AI evolution and technology, beautiful as it is in many respects, challenging as it is in many respects. But we're not gonna lose humans if we continue to invest in humans, and that for us is about students.
Well, and I think what has also made it very successful, we make this thing accessible. We give people a voice. Which is the most important thing, and especially those who don't have voices, or traditionally don't have voices, which is real critical for us. So enjoy the next half of this calendar year with Cloudcast Media. We got more fun stuff that we'll do. We'll do an end of the year wrap up in December as well. Charles, how do they get a hold of us?
Well, listen, it's real easy. For me, it's Charles at cloudcastmedia.us. And so anyone out there that wants to talk about, hey, we've got some brilliant guests for not only this show, but other shows. Is there some project, some person, some place that needs a little lift, needs exploration? We're the place to bring your stories to. Or if you have an idea for a community-focused podcast, and remember, we focus on positivity, intellectual, impactful, informative, inquisitive. That's the kind of program we want to do at Cloudcast. Hit us up, and Drew, you can share your email, and so you can be the recipient of some of these.
That sounds fine. So you can catch me. I'll give you a couple of them. Drew at extraweekly.com, and the extra is just a X letter, not EX, or UCLA Drew at AOL.com, and happy to tee this up. And I think what's been fun about this ride, and it certainly has been elevated to say the least when I became your partner on this, is that one of the things we love is what we call connectivity capital.
Oh, yeah.
That's something that Charles had coined. Share that with the group.
Well, again, it comes down to, what happens when humans get together. And we always talk about there's financial capital, right? And then there's human capital. And those are usually the lifebloods of organizations. You need money to invest and grow a business. But one of the real balance sheet assets, intangible as it may be, is what we call connectivity capital. It's when you build relationships and you're connecting with other humans, like-minded, community-focused. That is something you can literally bank on delivering incredible dividends for your organization and the community at large. So we call it connectivity capital. What happens when someone comes in a studio and we're communicating? That's why we love in studio versus the virtual episodes. Connectivity capital is really what it's all about.
Well, and as we've seen it on many of our shows, especially the Spotlight show, when we all do between 4 and 6 interviews every single Friday without fail. We'll do this 48 times during the year. The community leaders that'll see who else is on the show. It's fun when they come in the studio to hear the end of one show go, I've been trying to get a hold of you for 6 months now. You can't, and it really works out well. And so I think it certainly elevates the connection between people and what we're trying to accomplish. And literally that's what Cloudcast Media is about. That's what the Spotlight show is about. And we're excited about hopefully our next 20 years.
Yeah, absolutely. No question about it. Well, I'm going to tell you, Drew, I'm excited about the next 20 years. I don't know that either one of us
I didn't say I was going to be there.
Yeah, we'll be running the company, but I'm hoping that Cloudcast Media, we're going to look back in 20 years, 40 years, 60 years, and we'll say, hey, San Diego helped contribute and start one of the great local media companies in the country. And by the way, our appetite, where this whole concept of listen where you live, learn where you live, we've got all kinds, play where you live. We got some other things we're thinking about because, as you know, I don't think print is dead, and I love print journalism. I think there's a lot we can do with newsletters and magazines as well to celebrate this local movement we're trying to just be an important player in and part of the ecosystem.
No, I agree. Well, Charles Parisi, always enjoy this. Now we've hit on something that we'll be doing this quite a bit. Half-year reports and end-of-year reports. I think this is very good. And to our listeners, we hoped you enjoyed this episode of Spotlight on the Community.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.